Do you have any professional responsibility to report or document suspected physical abuse of one of your patients?
If I witness or find out information of domestic or child abuse, yes.
And so what is that responsibility?
I need to notify superiors of the information I was provided with.
When did you first meet Ms. Heard?
I believe it was the end of, excuse me, hang on one sec. Oh, I have it here. I'm just looking at my nursing notes. It looks like August 27th, 2014.
Okay, so can we please pull up the nursing notes, which I believe are Exhibit 2? Okay, I'd like to, while we have this document up, I'd like to go through this section that's called client history. Do you see what I'm referring to?
Yes.
Was the information in this paragraph self-reported to you by Ms. Heard?
I just have a quick moment to review that and then I can answer that question.
Certainly.
Thank you. So to answer that question, I believe this was information given to me from Ms. Heard. I'm not positive, but I can say that anytime I refer or begin a sentence with client states or client reports, those I can confirm, you know, I received that information from the client. As far as in totality, I would assume most information came from Ms. Heard, but I can't rule out that I didn't get any information from the treating physician in preparation either.
And I think you, would this information have been relayed to you at that first meeting with Ms. Heard?
This information, if it was information I received from Dr. Kipper, I would have had that information probably prior to meeting her. But anytime that I said states and I can confirm that I got that information, I would assume that it was sometime within the first day or two of meeting her, because I usually take a client history when I meet a client.
Down a couple more sentences. It says, AH reports history of substance abuse, including an addiction to cocaine and liquor. CT client reports abstaining from cocaine for a couple years, but was unable to report exact dates. Do you see that? Do you see that where I'm referring to?
Yes, I see that.
And that's something that you would have written?
Yes.
Okay. And this is also information that you believe Ms. Heard would have reported directly to you?
Again, I don't have specific recollection of this, but I would have to refer to my notes that says the client reports it. So the assumption would be made that she provided me with that information.
So it says, it goes on to say, CT does not smoke cigarettes. She reports consuming 1 to 3 glasses of red wine each day. Do you see that?
Yes.
And again, this is based off of your notes, something that Ms. Heard reported to you, correct?
Again, I don't recall the specifics of that. I would refer again that in that particular sentence you're referring to, I used the verbiage of she reports, meaning Ms. Heard reports. So I would make the assumption that she reported that information to me.
In the time that Ms. Heard was your patient, do you recall seeing her consume wine?
Yes.
Is this self-report of 1 to 3 glasses of red wine each day consistent with your recollection?
I don't recall her drinking red wine every time I saw her, so I can't confirm that each time I saw her she would drink 1 to 3 glasses. I don't recall her drinking every time I saw her.
Did you ever see Ms. Heard appear intoxicated from drinking alcohol?
I don't recall her being intoxicated.
Okay, so moving on to the next sentence here, it says she reports a familial history of substance abuse. Both mother and father have abused and become dependent on stimulants, methamphetamine, opiates, and alcohol. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And the she here, it refers to Ms. Heard?
That's correct.
Okay. So this is also something that Ms. Heard reported to you as far as your notes reflect?
Again, I don't have specific recollection of this. It appears that she did report that, but I don't remember.
So a couple sentences later here, it says, client admits to a history of anxiety, eating disorder, attention deficit disorder, bipolar disorder, codependence issues, and occasional insomnia. Do you see that sentence?
Yes.
And based off of this note and specifically the language that says client admits, you believe that this is something that Ms. Heard would have reported to you?
As you stated, because it says client admits, I would make that assumption.
What do you recall Ms. Heard saying about her history of anxiety issues?
I don't recall specifics. As I stated earlier in the morning, I remember a general anxiety with many issues in her life.
What do you recall Ms. Heard telling you about her codependence issues?
I have vague memory of discussing codependence issues within previous relationships. I couldn't give you specifics on that. I just sort of have a vague memory of discussing that.
Do you have any non-specific recollections of Ms. Heard being angry or enraged?
Other than that time that I spoke about in London 2014, I didn't specifically witness anger and rage from Ms. Heard.
The next sentence here says her mood has been labile. Am I pronouncing that correct?
Yes.
So first of all, what does that mean?
Emotional ability is typically when emotions swing on a pendulum. You know, for example, you may see someone very sad at one moment and quickly transition to extreme happiness. It sort of swings from, like I said, it's sort of a pendulum.
And did you ever in the time that you treated Ms. Heard, did you ever personally witness this type of emotional ability?
I don't recall specifically.
Okay. The next sentence says, client expressed concern to husband and Dr. Kipper that she's nervous about being alone while husband is working on movie set in London, and expressed she has difficulty dealing with feelings of insecurity and jealousy when not in the presence of her husband. Did I read that right?
Yes.
Do you recall learning this during your initial meeting with Ms. Heard?
I don't recall learning this during the initial meeting, but again, when I initially met Ms. Heard and Mr. Depp, it was fairly brief because then after that we traveled to London. So I don't recall if I learned of this instantaneously or if that was gathered, throughout the next day or two, spending time with her.
Is this description of Ms. Heard having feelings of insecurity and jealousy when not in the presence of Mr. Depp, is that consistent with your recollection when you were treating Ms. Heard?
I wouldn't say all the time that was an issue. I have a vague sense of those issues popping up throughout the years, but I wouldn't say that that was a constant theme.
But you do have recollections of that being an issue at some time while you were treating her?
I would say that's a fair statement.
Please go to the entry for August 29th, 2014. Okay, so in this note, I'd like to direct your attention to the section that starts with 2345. And specifically the first sentence, it says client RN and Debbie RN went to dinner together. You see that?
I do.
And Debbie RN is Debbie Lloyd, is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm going down a couple sentences here. It says, client verbalizes feelings of confusion as she feels fiance would like her to decrease / eliminate acting career and stay home. Do you see that? Do you remember having this specific conversation with Ms. Heard?
I don't remember specifically, but I do have a general recollection. No, I don't recall specifics.
Did you ever have any discussions with Mr. Depp concerning Ms. Heard's acting career?
I have a sort of vague general memory of discussing that before. As to specific details, I don't think I can provide you with specifics, but it sounds familiar.
Did you ever have the impression that Mr. Depp